Every so often, General Hospital delivers an episode so over the top that it feels less like daytime drama and more like Greek tragedy on steroids. This week, the honor goes to Liesl Obrecht, who managed to slap her daughter Britt with enough force to register on the Richter scale. Somewhere, a seismologist is still adjusting his equipment. The brilliance of the moment wasn't merely in the slap itself, though it certainly deserves its own Emmy, but in the justification. 2 years of grief will do strange things to a mother, and Liesl chose physical punctuation over dialogue. That Britt didn't see it coming only heightened the impact. Her expression was part shock, part celestial disorientation, as if she had been personally slapped into a new zodiac sign. Nina's face in the aftermath was equally priceless, caught somewhere between horror and better her than me. Meanwhile, Jason's patience with Anna is running on fumes. Their partnership, once built on espionage solidarity, now looks like a Cold War detente ready to collapse. Anna manipulated Jocelyn into the WSB, and Jason has been left cleaning up the mess, while simultaneously biting his tongue because, of course, he swore another doomed oath to Carly. It's remarkable how a man who survived mob wars and international spy games still cannot survive Carly's disapproval. Each secret he withholds is another crack in their already fragile trust. When she inevitably finds out, scorched earth will be a charitable description. And then there's Brick, the eternal fixer, the ghost in Sonny's machine. With one well-timed entrance, he reminded everyone why his presence is the equivalent of an adrenaline shot to the storyline. His declaration that it's still time for Drew was both chilling and delightful, a reminder that Brick does not dabble in half measures. Writers beware, diminish his competence at your peril. This character thrives on being infallible, and the audience loves him precisely for that. Elsewhere, Lulu finally encounters the long-awaited specter of karma. Drew, Willow, and the ever-shifting chessboard of revenge plots continue to lumber forward, though one suspects Sonny's retribution will hit harder than half the Bureau's botched operations. And because no soap can resist, Niso, whispers of Nathan's miraculous return persist, whether as clone, twin, or dream sequence. Port Charles geography may bend time zones to its will. Apparently, one can reach Australia in under an hour, but resurrecting the dead remains the true house specialty. In sum, the week's episode was a dizzying cocktail of betrayal, misplaced loyalty, and familial assault. An hour of television where a single slap managed to overshadow espionage, revenge, and resurrections. It was outrageous, melodramatic, and utterly perfect General Hospital. Never believe the timeline General Hospital gives you, because it's physically impossible. General Hospital continues to indulge in its favorite pastime, bending time, space, and logic until they snap. Croatia to Australia overnight? Apparently, Port Charles characters now have access to wormholes. Brennan manages to track Joss and Vaughn across continents with all the ease of ordering takeout. Meanwhile, Elizabeth has appointed herself the town's unsolicited advisor, inserting her wisdom into every situation, whether it's welcome or not. But the real spectacle is Britt's miraculous reappearance. After 2 years presumed dead, she resurfaces at the hospital as if she merely overslept. No shock, no awe, just casually popping in for medication. The writers seem to have forgotten that Britt once stole an embryo, yet now she's treated like some misunderstood matriarch. Liesl's emotional reaction to seeing her daughter alive was easily the most genuine moment, thanks entirely to Kathleen Gatti's ability to wring depth from even the most ludicrous plot twist. And then came the slap. Hard to watch, but perhaps the only realistic beat in this reunion circus. Of course, Lulu is finally receiving something resembling karma. After years of meddling, demonizing dissenters, and tormenting Brooklyn, she now finds herself spiraling. Dante and Lulu's outrage at Britt, suddenly demanding she leave the hospital, rings hollow. Neither Britt nor Liesl showed the slightest interest in Rocco during Lulu's 4-year coma, yet now his custody is a top priority? The selective outrage is laughable. Jason, meanwhile, has decided Anna is the scapegoat of the week. He chastises her for withholding information about Joss, conveniently ignoring the small matter of treason charges. And his possessive dynamics with Carly? Already unraveling, as Britt's return threatens to divide his loyalties. Carly's inevitable meltdown will be worth the wait. Toss Cody into the mix, and a love triangle practically writes itself. Jason and Britt together would be combustible. Cody is better off paired with Molly anyway. Elsewhere, Britt glides back into town, ghost metaphors and all, reminding everyone that his bond with Sonny and Carly remains one of the show's few consistent delights. Meanwhile, Sonny himself finally shows some backbone against Drew, whose fixation on Willow is approaching parody. If custody battles follow, one almost hopes Sonny sharpens his teeth further. Still, for all the absurdities, geographic impossibilities, resurrection on demand, recycled custody squabbles, there are glimmers of solid storytelling. Liesel's grief turned anger, the strained family reunions, and the prospect of Lulu's downfall offer potential. But until the writers stop fast-traveling characters across continents and pretending history doesn't exist, Port Charles will remain a place where continuity goes to die. Stop pretending General Hospital still makes sense. It doesn't, and here's why. Ah, Port Charles. A place where babies get stolen, villains rise from the grave, and even background sets can't keep their continuity straight. Let's unravel this week's carnival of nonsense. First, the family tree. Lucy bore Serena for Scotty and Dominique, serving as their surrogate. Whatever became of Serena is anyone's guess, because she's treated like a child who wandered off the set years ago and never returned. Meanwhile, Drew's shooting has sparked a buffet of flimsy suspects. The theories range from Willow pulling the trigger out of rage over her custody battle, to Brick or ADA Turner taking their turn at vigilante justice. Some even suggest Faison orchestrated it all. Brains in a jar be damned. After all, in Port Charles, death is more of a suggestion than a guarantee. Sidwell also emerges as a prime candidate, conveniently labeling Drew a liability before the shooting. Subtle. And speaking of Drew, why is everyone acting like this unstable man is a suitable guardian? Even the youngest characters know Scout belongs with her grandmother. Placing her with Willow is absurd. If Alexis Davis can't secure custody, then perhaps Alexis Cassadine should. Enough dithering, use the flex. Britt remains her own soap opera. She's brilliant enough to tinker with lethal projects, yet somehow reduced to sniping endlessly about Carly. The bitterness is exhausting. Her dynamic with Jason once offered sparks, but when it devolves into recycled Carly bashing, it's just tiresome. Liesel slapping Britt, however, was a rare delight. A moment of comedy delivered with the force of a German opera. Mutter indeed. Elsewhere, Joss and Vaughn demonstrate that the WSB apparently trains its agents by handing them a badge and a map to nowhere. Frisco must be spinning in his grave, if he's even dead. Their cringeworthy partnership makes one long for the days when the WSB was at least presented as a credible agency. Valentine and Jack are still flitting about, while Jason conveniently stumbles upon Joss. And because no Port Charles conspiracy is complete without a resurrection rumor, fans are left speculating about Morgan's eternal absence. Spoiler, don't hold your breath. As for Britt's history, yes, she once stole an embryo, but in this universe, kidnapping children is practically a social icebreaker. People have committed far worse and still ended up married or playing poker together. The moral compass of Port Charles is a spinning carnival wheel at best. Continuity errors don't help either. Case in point, Joss and Vaughn's little tryst. They start with a backdrop of trees and a porch, only for the next shot to reveal an interior. Bravo to the set team for inventing teleporting architecture. Even Rick Lansing is languishing somewhere off-screen when he could be keeping Liz occupied. Instead, the trio of women holding him hostage apparently forgot to let him out for air. And finally, Drew, once again, dabbling in blackmail and sneaking around safes. If the police have any sense left, they'll catch him. And someone please return Lila Quartermain's ring to the rightful family vault. Drew shouldn't be anywhere near it. In sum, too many recycled villains, too many unstable guardians, too many cringeworthy agents, and far too many continuity gaffes. General Hospital excels at chaos, but lately, it feels less like high drama and more like a blooper reel on an endless loop. Here's the dirty truth. General Hospital has turned into a carousel of corruption and recycled love triangles. Apparently, Brick has graduated from ghost-like fixer to all-purpose bagman, bribing judges left and right as if that's just another Tuesday. Conveniently, the judge he allegedly paid off is now dead, which makes the entire scheme both useless and suspiciously timed. Of course, Sonny applauds the brilliance of the plan. Never mind that it collapsed before it even had a chance to work. Meanwhile, Dante continues his lifelong audition for most spineless father figure. Instead of standing up for Rocco, he and Charlotte seem determined to rewrite the past 5 years, as though it's their burden to fix Lulu's absence. One wonders when exactly Dante plans to grow a backbone, or at least borrow one. Britt's saintly martyr act, however, might be the true endurance test for viewers. She falsified her own death to spare her mother the pain of watching her decline, yet somehow re-emerges in miraculous health, dripping with self-righteous sacrifice. It's a storyline begging for skepticism. And then there's Drew, the town's most prolific blackmailer. He continues to slither through Port Charles, extorting everyone in sight, while Willow, astonishingly, seems perfectly fine with it. At this point, their pedestals aren't just high, they're practically scraping the ceiling. It's long past time for both to come crashing down. Martin, meanwhile, remains a masterclass in willful gullibility. How many times must he be manipulated by Drew before he learns? Evidently, infinity. As for Elizabeth, her romantic resume could fill a filing cabinet. She's been with nearly every major male character, save for Sonny, Dante, and Patrick. Her greatest hit remains the time she let Jason, then thought to be Jake Doe, believe an identity lie she conveniently withheld. In hindsight, it wasn't entirely a lie, since Jake Doe wasn't Jason after all. But splitting hairs doesn't erase the deceit. Longevity doesn't excuse a history of entanglements that would make even Carly blush. And speaking of Carly's orbit, the younger generation isn't spared from absurdity either. Joss may soon discover that Dex, supposedly dead, has simply been moonlighting for the WSB. The man she's partnered with now even looks suspiciously like him, because subtlety is clearly overrated. The theory fits too neatly. Dex has military experience, mob training, and enough espionage flair to justify a WSB badge. The writers may as well gift-wrap the twist. Naturally, this sets up a love triangle with Vaughn, who, while a fine actor, has all the chemistry of a wet sponge with Joss. The only way to salvage that dynamic would be to flip Vaughn to DVX and let the sparks of conflict fly. Finally, let's not forget the comic relief. Outback the dog, destined, apparently, to lead a heroic animal jailbreak a la Lassie. Nothing screams high drama quite like a canine prison break scored to an imaginary theme song. In short, Port Charles remains a carousel of corruption, miraculous recoveries, and recycled love triangles. The only constant is the audience's patience, and even that is running dangerously thin. Here's the uncomfortable truth about Britt Westbourne. She's not a tragic heroine. She's the Britch, and the writers keep pretending otherwise. Drew Kane's identity crisis continues to spiral into absurdity. Is he really Drew, or has he been swapped with yet another lookalike? Either way, his character's exit feels about as permanent as a soap wedding, announced with fanfare, undone by the next ratings stunt. Meanwhile, Nancy continues to make herself the show's resident liability, serving commentary so tone-deaf it requires a footnote to clarify that she wasn't cheering an assassination, merely echoing Charlie Kirk's own grotesque calculus, the notion that child deaths are a prudent deal for preserving gun rights. If nothing else, Kirk has now become the very acceptable loss he once rationalized. As for the domestic chaos, Lulu and company should probably put pet adoption on hold. Forget the dog. Find the missing outback first. And speaking of misplaced priorities, apparently half the town knows Jocelyn is a WSB agent, while Carly remains blissfully in the dark. Naturally, the writers will drag this revelation out for maximum betrayal points, when Carly eventually discovers that both Jack and Jason kept her excluded. The scheme to frame Drew as the judge briber in Michael's custody battle is classic Sonny and Brick maneuvering. Watching Brick suggest that it's not too late to get rid of Drew Kane was both chilling and satisfying. Drew is too dangerous to leave unchecked, especially since he insists on painting Willow as unstable and unfit, while ignoring that Wiley and Amelia actually need their father. Of course, Drew's martyr act about honesty rings hollow when it's mostly about spite toward Michael and anyone who supports him. Elsewhere, Jason and Anna's friendship is crumbling under the weight of lies. Jason feels betrayed that Anna hid Jocelyn's spy status, yet his hands are tied by a promise to Joss. Trust in Port Charles is thinner than the hospital coffee. And then there's Britt Westbourne, the eternal Britch. The writers continue to whitewash her past with misty-eyed Rocco flashbacks, conveniently forgetting she stole the child and robbed Dante and Lulu of their earliest memories. Her insistence on calling him Ben was a cruel flourish, as was faking her death and forcing her mother, Liesl, through needless grief. Classic Brit. Inconsiderate, manipulative, and terminally self-absorbed. The show's family tree remains a tangle of recycled DNA. Michael fathered children with sisters Nell and Willow. Sam bore children with twin brothers Jason and Drew. Maxie managed brothers Nathan and Hendrik. Alexis' daughters are split between Sonny and his brother Rick. Carly has cycled through the Thinese. Quartermain trio of AJ, Jason, and Drew. Elizabeth paired off with Lucky and Nicholas. It's less romance, more genealogical gymnastics. Compatibility debates rage on Jason with Britt or Jason with Anna. Either way, anyone foolish enough to cross Carly's children had better start running now. Meanwhile, Trina sits on information that Drew no longer holds the blackmail material. When he learns it's gone, suspicion will fall squarely on Curtis or Portia, ensuring yet another round of misplaced vengeance. And finally, Elizabeth continues her side career as Port Charles's unsolicited meddler-in-chief, ordering Lucas to deceive Rocco, inserting herself into Brad's choices, and dispensing judgment as if she's on retainer with Olympus itself. It's less noble nurse, more busybody without a storyline. Poor Liesl, crushed under Britt's selfishness, at least has the excuse of maternal grief. Elizabeth, on the other hand, seems addicted to managing everyone else's crises simply because she has no life of her own. In short, Drew is unstable, Britt is insufferable, and Elizabeth has turned interference into an art form. The rest? Just another day in the ever-circling soap opera Ouroboros.